Hi everyone, it's Maria Lawton, the Azorean Green Bean and host of Maria's Portuguese Table. I have a really wonderful recipe for you today that I want to share. It's a quick bean stew with Portuguese sausage. And I'm just saying Portuguese sausage because some of you like linguiça, some of you like chourico, and there is no right or wrong here, folks. As well as there's no right or wrong for the beans. Now, today what I'm going to show you is a really quick dish that I made for Viva Portugal last summer. And I had a whole bunch of requests from people saying, Maria, can you share that recipe again? Because they made it after they saw me doing it and they wanted to do it again. Now, my mom would make this recipe for like a quick kind of dinner, as well as, you know, dinner would be these stewed beans, and she would add like fried eggs on top because, you know, a fried egg with an extra protein on everything is an amazing way to make dinner. But what I'm going to show you today is going to be something very simple. You can do it at home, like I said, with any of the beans that you have at home. And it's as simple as these ingredients, okay? Now, I've already put a half a cup of the olive oil into my pan with a half a stick of butter, which is 4 tablespoons of butter. And so we're going to need that. We're going to need to have 2 small onions already chopped up nicely here. We have a pound of chourico. I'm using chourico today, but again, you can use whatever you have at home. You can use a mix of linguiça and chourico if you want to, but this is what I want to tell you the differences between chourico and linguiça. I'm going to teach you that now. Now, linguiça and chourico, growing up, the difference between the two was linguiça would be very mild in comparison and less fatty than a chourico, which would be more spicy and it would have a little bit more fat, a little bit more chunky meat in it. That's the kind of thing I grew up with. But nowadays, you can find spicy linguiça, you can find mild chourico. So there's a plethora of stuff now that you can get out there that, you know, growing up, that was not the way. But I want to show you what I have here, because right here, right now, see how that big chunks of fat? That's a homemade chourico. So they actually did use a lot of fat in it, which is, fat and stuff is delicious, isn't it? But the big difference between calling it a linguiça and a chourico is the casing that it's stuffed in. So if they used large intestine to stuff, that would have been chourico. So that's why when you see chourico, you just see one larger one only, and they put 2 to make a pound, versus a linguiça that they use the smaller intestine. So hence that longer piece that curls, that's linguiça, and using a small casing, the small intestinal. So that is truly the difference. So if anyone ever asks you now, you know the ins and outs of describing the difference between chourico and linguiça. So there you go. And then I have about 5 to 6 cloves of garlic that are minced here. Half a cup of tomato paste. Now, a half cup of tomato paste, if you have those the small little cans, it's about half a can. About a half a can of that. And then I have here, I need 3 of the larger, you know, like 1 pound and 13-ounce cans of beans. And what I did today is I found out I only had 2 of the butter beans, which is the white lima bean, and I didn't have a 3rd can. So instead, I just used chickpeas instead of adding the 3rd can. There it is. This is no right or wrong. You can use any bean. And if you're not a big white lima bean, butter bean, you can use kidney beans, you can use navy beans, and if you're using the dry beans, you need 9 cups of cooked beans. Now see, I'm going to show you what I have here, and that is the dried bean. And this is the white fava bean or lima bean that you would have. And this is dry, and this is in a can, cooked. So here's the difference, folks. So whether you have them dry and you soak them overnight and then the next day cook it, you would need 9 cups of the cooked dried stuff. but if not, you can do it this way, okay? We're trying to make it very simple for you here. And then it's paprika and salt to taste. And then we have about 2 cups of, what do you call it? I'm using chicken stock here, but you can use water. You can use a combination of water and wine. You can use a combination of chicken stock with wine. I personally don't like to cook straight out with water, although my mom would lots of times. This is just a personal preference. I like some added taste to it. So if I use some chicken broth in this, I know it's going to have an added flavor and seasoning in there, as well as if I would use like 1 cup of this and then 1 cup of white wine. A nice vin verde would be delicious in that too. But I don't have any wine right now handy, so I'm just using all chicken stock on it. And then the very last thing that you would need is you would need some light, nice chopped parsley. And what's funny is I've had this parsley in my freezer from this last season, from chopping it all away and then storing it in my freezer. So it's really nice if you could do that also. Remember to do that when parsley is in season. Chop it up and freeze it, and you'll have it all year round for it. And at the very, very, very end, I like to grate some Sao Jorge cheese. Now, this Sao Jorge cheese I have here is 24-month cheese. Now, I was really lucky to find it just before the holidays again. It is very similar, I find it very similar to the Italian Parmesan cheese, where the Parmesan, where you can grate it. It is that same kind of consistency in the cheese, and it's really, really intense flavor. But you don't have 24-month cheese. And as you can see, I am saving this as long as I can, because I know it's now getting very harder and rarer to find 24-month cheese and Sao Jorge cheese. But you can use any other hard cheese that you would love to grate. And I do that at the very, very end. And for those of you that want to take it one step further, you can take your pan. This pan is not going to be able, I'm not going to put it in the oven. But if I made this on my cast iron skillet and I just did half of this, it would fit in my cast iron skillet. I would grate it. I would put it in the oven for, a good like maybe 5-10 minutes, and then put some more cheese on top and have it all melt. So that's just another take of what we can do. But let's get started. And these are the ingredients for this wonderful, delicious dish. So let's begin. Okay, so now I've turned it on, our little induction, so it makes a little bit of noise. So I'm sorry if you hear a little humming going on. It's because once I get to turn this on, this is what happens here. So what I've done is I am adding this. I'm going to lower this down just a little. I don't want it to get too hot here, but I'm going to melt the butter into the oil here, bring all that to a nice heat, because next we're going to saute these onions. Now, personally, for this, I like to saute them till they're translucent, okay? So let's see. Oh, the butter is melting nicely here. I am going to add the onions. Love that sizzle that they make. And we're going to saute these. And I'm going to raise that a little higher. You know, I'm testing out all this different equipment so we can make this for you. And, you know, last week I made the boule de stain, which is the pan bread with no yeast. And I had to play with this as well, with a cast iron. So today it's an induction pan. So I am just learning all these like little things as we go along. So this is fun. It's almost like you're learning with me here and how to use these pans. I just want to do this. Let's get this a little higher. here we go. Now, when my mom would make this, like I said, she would do this for, let's say, it was something where she had canned beans already. She didn't have to soak her beans or cook them at all, because usually when she would make her beans, where she would soak them, overnight and make them, that was her baked beans. With the white navy bean, the small little navy bean. And I don't have that in my first cookbook, but I know it'll be in the second one. That was one of the main recipes that I wanted to make sure that I got to share with you for my second recipe, because it's something that's really dear and true to my heart. That recipe just brings back so many delicious memories of my mom making it. But that was a full day of making it, because you would have, pork belly in it that needed to cook first, and you had to cook your chorizo, you had to cook your onions down, your beans down. It's a whole day process. So this one here, when I was asked to make a recipe for, like I said before, for Viva Portugal last summer, I had to make it so that it would be done in time, like 30 to 45 minutes tops. So this is the reason I said, oh my goodness, I remember the recipe that my mom would make. That was a very quick take on her other one, but really delicious. And I think you're going to agree. For those that were lucky enough to be there for the taste testing, I think we sampled, I made two large batches, and we gave out like little samples, and it was gone before I knew it. And people were like, can we have more? And I didn't have more. And for a Portuguese woman to be told, can I have more? And you say you don't have any. Let me tell you, that was a very hard and difficult thing for me. But see, as you can see, it's sauteing away nicely. And you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, Maria, that's a lot of oil and butter. You need that. You need that because we're going to be adding along the way here. And you need all of this, especially when it comes for adding the beans and adding this here. We're building flavor, because beans like this, when they come out of a can, they have no flavor. No salt, hardly anything in it. So you need to build on the flavor of this dish. And that's what we're doing. And like I said, I'll show you obviously when it's done, and you can see how that would make an amazing dinner by just adding a couple of eggs on top. It's almost like if we didn't have enough protein at home, or it was something, we're making something out of what we have in the pantry, and we had eggs, there would be an egg. There would be an egg in that dish, because it's just the added protein. They wanted to make sure we had enough protein. Okay, so now these are nice and translucent. You can see, I'm going to put this up just a little bit more. Okay. And then we're going to add the chorizo, the one pound of chorizo. And what I do is I like taking the casings out of them. I take all the casings out, and then I cut them into rounds. But if you're like, I don't mind the casings, keep the casings on. That's up to you. Personally, I don't care for it. So I like to do that. And then I like to cut them in rounds. You want to cut them in little smaller pieces to make it extend more through it. You're welcome to do that too. It's just, again, this is just the way, my family did it. So, and that's the way I'm showing. But like with any family, everyone did it just a little different, and the seasonings were just a little bit different. So let's take care of this and saute this. For whatever reason, today it's taking a little bit of time. It's not searing as fast as it is when I do it over my stove. So I guess we're just gonna have to be a little bit patient with this today, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth once it's done. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that here and get that nice and hot. This usually takes about 5 to 6 minutes. So, and by the time, as you can see, I'm not adding the garlic till I think all of this is seared well. Because if you add garlic too early in this, let's say if I added garlic along with the onions, by the time I would add the chorizo, it could start burning the garlic. And if garlic is burned, that just ruins the flavor throughout the whole dish. So you do not want to burn your garlic. It'll make it a bitter, bitter flavor. Okay? So we want to make sure that this is nice and seared throughout, cooked throughout, I should say. All the sauteing we're doing here. Just sauteing the two. This looks great. Oh my God, it's starting to smell really delicious. All I can smell is the chorizo now and all the spices. And that's the other thing. There's some chorizo that, you know, they add a lot of hot pepper in it. So, you know, you've got to know who your supplier is of your chorizo. If they tend to make it spicier, then you have to be careful with adding your salts at the end or during it. If you like things a lot spicy, now would be the time you would start incorporating some of that really spiciness in it to come in at the very through it, like through the end kind of thing. But, you know, for me, the spices that I get here in the chorizo are more than enough. I don't need it to be too spicy for me and my family. So this is nicely done. It's been about 5 minutes. It's more than enough for me. And then I'm going to add the garlic. And once you add that garlic, oh my God, I just know the aroma that it fills the kitchen with is just awesome. Okay. Oh, of course, my spatula is not reaching all the garlic. I don't want it to waste. Oh my goodness. That smells wonderful. Just wonderful. Now what's funny is I always have garlic at home. I always keep it in a nice dark place under my my kitchen cabinet, and I usually buy of course organic garlic, because when you buy garlic, it's really important that you buy really good garlic. And so of course I always have so much garlic, and I always buy more garlic, and then in the summertime when the farmers market has garlic that they're selling, I even buy more from them. But up until you know, with everything that's going on in our lives right now during this time, I ran out of my garlic and I couldn't find it. So what I had to find was, I actually found one small jar of already minced garlic, and it's 1 teaspoon equals 1 clove. So I had about 5 to 6 cloves of the minced garlic. So, you know, you just gotta use what you have. You don't want anything to go to waste. So that just went in. Oh my goodness, it smells fantastic. Everything is coming along together. And what you want to do next is you want to add that 1/4 cup of your tomato paste. So once that goes in, it's going to thicken a little. But what you want to know when you use this, okay, like I said, it's about half a can, that small little can that you would find at the grocery store for tomato paste. This is half of it is a 1/4 cup. See how that adds that beautiful color now. See how everything just kind of thickened up a little because of it? Oh yeah. Oh my God. You know, I could just eat this with some bread and I'd be happy. But that's not the dish we're making today, folks. Okay. Beautiful. It's all dissolved in. It's gotten in. Because what happens is, again, tomato sauce needs to be added, or excuse me, tomato paste needs to be added in the beginning. At the end, you've got that whole flavor of tomato that will come through, and that's not the flavor you want in there. You want some of it, but you're building. Again, you're building flavors. Now we're gonna add all of the rinsed canned beans that I had in my pantry. And like I said, I didn't have enough of the white lima beans, so I used my two, oh, there goes a chickpea. A chickpea made it over. Hopefully my puppy is not going to go after it. So we have here the 2 large cans. I'm talking about the 1 pound, 13 ounce cans of the butter beans. They call it butter beans, but it's white lima beans. Who are we kidding? And then, like I said, I only had 2, not 3. So I used the 2 small cans of the chickpeas. So, because again, I thought that that would go well together. And then once everything is mixed together, as you can see, look, there's no more olive oil and butter in the bottom of that pan. Everything has mixed in and has clung to those beans, which is wonderful. So now the other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure you add your seasonings that you like, whether it's a little bit, a pinch or so of paprika, if you love that paprika taste, which I do, and so does my family. We're going to add a little bit of salt, not too much, just a little. And this is Portuguese sea salt that I'm using. So, you know, a little goes a long way with this. And then I've got my 2 cups of chicken stock that I have, that I add in here. And now we're gonna wait till this starts heating up nicely. And that's gonna be, what we're gonna do is gonna bring it up to a boil almost and let it, a low simmer, bring it down to a low simmer. And we're just gonna simmer for like 10 minutes. Because everything in here is cooked already. So let's just bring this and let this come through here. And I'm even going to, if we're going to speed things up a little, the best thing to do, I don't know if you know this trick, but that is, we're going to cover it. Let that steam get in there. And we're going to let it cook for a good, like I said, we're going to let it simmer for a good 10, 15 minutes the most. But we're going to let it simmer up a little bit high. Hi everyone, it's been about 15 minutes. And as you can see, when I uncover this, whoa, isn't that beautiful? It's going at a very low simmer here. But this has thickened up. Look at that. How beautiful is that? And like I said, the last thing I like to do, now if you wanted this to be even thicker, you could break some of these beans up a little and that would thicken up that broth. But me, I like it this way. I like a little bit of gravy to this. You could actually poach eggs in this if you wanted to. You could be a little bit fancy. But this is how I like it. It's nice. It has a nice little stewed kind of, it's all great. I am going to shut this. And the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add just a little bit of parsley. See, just a little, not too much. We don't have to do too much. It's mostly for color, a little added flavor. It kind of, you know, it's a really pretty thing, isn't it? Whenever you have garlic, or garlic. Who am I talking about? It's because I love garlic. When you put parsley over anything like that, that's great. And then what I had said before, and that is grated 24-month cheese. And what we're going to do is we're going to just look at this. Look at this. And it just melts in. That flavor, that Sao Jorge cheese is going to come through. I wish you could smell this, because let me tell you, my kitchen smells amazing. And then now with the grated cheese on top of everything, it makes it even better. It really does. And yeah, I think that's it. I could keep going, but we want to save as much as this is possible for my next dish. But this is it. Now, like I said before, you could take this dish, or I should say this pan, if it was, if it could go in the oven, if your pan can go in the oven, have it go in the oven for a little bit. The top can get a little bit like rosy, a little brown. My Gracie is saying, yes, she agrees. So you would do this, and let me show you how. I mean, look at this. This is just amazing. I'm gonna take just a little bit here just to make sure that it's flavored right, especially with the cheese and all that other seasonings to it. And oh, it smells wonderful. I can even tell you, I can even smell the Sao Jorge cheese right now, because oh, it's so good. So there it is, folks. It's as simple as this. It's fantastic. I can't wait till you make this. Remember, this could be a side dish for any of your meats. It could be your dinner, just like this, because it's a hearty bean dish, as well as poached eggs in it if you leave more of that broth that's in it, or fried egg on top. Because let me tell you, growing up, I used to love bean sandwiches, but that's a whole other series. But for now, I'm going to be enjoying this, and I hope you get to make this in your kitchen real soon. Your family's going to love it, especially if they're bean lovers. They're going to love this dish. So until next time, see you then. Bye. Oh my God, so good. It's so good.